Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here is a quote for this podcast. Standing up meant standing alone. Standing up meant having a real relationship with right or wrong while being aware which side of the fence you stood on in every way. We can't stand up when we are standing down. We can't be warriors in life for others when we are standing down. We can't change the hardships of our own life or others if we stand down. We can't be free if we stand down. The list of losses and potential deficits brought on by standing down is huge and frightens many from standing up. Page 139, Finding Honor, The Journey to the Truth by Christine Beckwith. Today, we're talking about chapter 16 from an author, a teacher, a speaker, a friend, a supporter of the Culture Matters podcast, supporter of my own journey to the truth for years. And damn, is that a good quote? Our guest today is Christine Beckwith, the one and only founder in 2020 Vision for Success. If you haven't heard her on the show, you got to go back and listen to all these episodes on all these chapters. We're on chapter 16.
Yeah, it's a good one. I always find it interesting when I reread the titles of the chapters and I realize that what I did, and I'm doing it in the current book I'm writing in too, I start with, and this isn't always how authors write when you're writing self-help or motivational type books, but I start with the negative part. So I'm kind of turning a theory upside down and I'm kind of trying to grab the reader's attention on the negative aspect of a trait or a thing. And then once I get into that and I talk about the cost and the price of getting something wrong, I then turn that chapter into the getting it right part, and we end on a positive. And I would say, 60% of every one of these chapters are positively written, but they start from a dark place. So each time a new theory or lesson comes into the book, it is, consciously being written this way. I mean, there's no winging it. This is the most formidable psychological writing of my, life. And I really wanted to get it right. I knew a lot of people would read the book. I knew it would be a difficult read for a lot of people. I knew it would require a palate as well. Standing down is something that's constantly talked about. Somewhere in the last 5 years, Simon Sinek came out and this big, trend started socially with the, what's your why? And that little peeling back of the onion layer made everybody start to speak their truths. In speaking their truths, there became a lot of conjecture in social media around be authentic. Let's be real. I remember a couple of years ago, we were like, let's be real this year, instead. What are all the fake people going to do? And then you didn't know who was real because everybody was being real and everybody was being authentic and everybody was speaking their truth. And now you're like, where are the liars? Like they're all hidden behind them saying they're telling the truth, but we don't really know if they're telling the truth. This chapter debunks the popular politically correct opinion that falling into line, saying things in a polished manner, not disrupting, not leaning into conflict, not being real and authentic, not sharing your inner voice or truths, is how you survive in a world of business. And since Finding Honor is a personal development book for professionals, I made this chapter be about both the price tag of business standing down and professionally standing down, but personal standing down. What do we pay as people in our own psychology and our mental wellness for not outing our true feelings? And so this book is very deep because we're not talking about, okay, you're going to get in trouble with your boss if you speak up. And we're not in a personal world where we're talking about, if we lie or we don't stand up to what's going on in our lives or fight for ourselves, we might have deficits in our relationships. Truthfully, we are talking about what is the mental toll? What happens to you as a person? And listen, throughout this whole book, you would think I would love to have PhD after my name. I mean, if I had 10 years to spare, I'd go back to school just to get that accolade. I think I've lived in the psychological um sector of the world for 30 years getting treated. And just like everything in my life, it's a train the trainer thing, because becoming the student of psychology has made me the master of psychology in a way. And again, I think there's a price tag I paid personally. I understand that may not be true for everybody, but I think it's true for a lot of people. And that is that if you do not stand up, you are going to carry things inside your body. We are not listening intuitively. I saw a quote the other day about aligning your conscious awareness to how you're feeling. Like, how much of what you're doing every day is shit you don't want to do? How much of what you're saying is held back? How much worry do you have about things that you can't get on the table? I recently stood in conflict with 2 or 3 business relationships where I was growing angst because I was getting into conversations and people were talking to me and they were speaking their minds. And I had something to say, but I wasn't saying it back. And I disagreed with what they were saying pretty strongly. And I just kept taking the call, being the teacher, guiding, listening, maybe challenging a little bit what they were saying. And then something just happened with me where I was like, you got to be honest again. You got to stand up to this. And not because it was against me, but you got to stand up to the fact that you truly believe that it's incorrect. And so the next 3 conversations I had, I said my piece in what I believed to be that they were wrong, these 3 different individuals. Interestingly, they fought me, all 3. All 3 felt, and I think I knew this. I think I knew it was going to lead to a fight, and that they felt strongly enough about what they were saying that they would push back and there would be a wrestling match. And I think I was avoiding that because I really like peace these days. But I was ready to fight the fight. And when they came back swinging, I got up on my feet and I said, well, that's not true. And I'm going to tell you why it's not true. That's a lie you're telling yourself. And it's a narrative that you're spreading. And you're trying to get a popular opinion up behind an unsavory thing that you're doing. And the truth is, there's a lot of people in your circle that are willing to say yes to you because of your power and your authority. And as a result of that, you're getting false support and it's driving you down a bad path. That's my God honest professional opinion. And then they would listen. And in one of the 3 instances, something the person was saying was a little personal towards me because they were framing words about a group of people. And not to get too specific, because I think anybody listening might figure it out if I did. When this person was
Well, I'll just
framing,
add,
yeah,
this is something I observe in big group environments all the
yes,
time. So you're really
yeah,
speaking to something profound. So just
yeah,
go very,
thank you.
a lot of people could
Thank you.
relate to this that are listening for sure. So I
Yeah,
don't think but anyway,
it
go ahead.
happens to me too. Thank you for saying. It happens to me
Yeah, the
too.
yes man effect.
Yeah, yes. And I don't want that. I want to say this too. There was a time in my life where I liked conflict, like years and years ago. And then I got into that politically correct because I saw that the conflict had a price tag. And then I said, I need to be better. I need to be more polished. And I overcorrected myself in corporate America. I could sit in the boardroom for 8 hours a day and not get in any fights. I thought that was like, I deserved a blue ribbon at the end of the day. For me, that was astonishing because just having me sit in an effing chair for like 8 hours was enough to make me a beast. I'd pick a fight with someone 6 hours in that I had nothing, no stakes in the game, but just because I felt so freaking like chained down. And so when I understood kind of the animal that I was, when I came out of corporate America, I recentered. And I think I recalibrated and I really have it going right where I'm not picking a fight to pick a fight. I am not saying black when someone says white. In fact, if I say black and you can convince me that white is right, I am way more easily, you know, redirected, and I'm way more willing to think about what the other person's saying today than I've ever been in my life. And literally within the same conversation, I can be convinced of an opposing thought I came into the conversation with. So I really think that this whole persona, to end that thought, this person was including me in this group of people that they were describing as this and describing as that and describing reacting this way and that way to some things. And I was very affirmative to say, listen, you can go ahead from this point forward and you can say those things about all of the other people, because I can't speak for them. I would argue to think that what you're saying is probably not a broad stroke statement that's correct for everybody. I'm going to tell you right now, it's incorrect for me. And so please don't, you can say it and you can say, except Christine Beckwith, because she's told me this isn't true for her. You can say this and you can say, except Christine Beckwith, and then you can speak what I'm about to say to you, but you can never say Christine Beckwith and all these people, or Christine Beckwith and all these people. Because here's the thing, you've got your facts wrong regarding me, regarding these two things. And that is a lie you're telling yourself, because I'm not doing what you want me to be doing. And that's because I'm not a sheep. And what you're saying is untrue. You need to recorrect your position on some of these things and understand how we got here. And so there was some education, there was some pushback. There was literally me saying, don't quote me in this group. Don't. And that's different than saying, let me tell you my opinion and let's see what you think of that. And then allowing that person to leave the conversation. Still, just people ignore the facts. People ignore what people say to them when they don't like what's being said. And then they carry on with their lies and their truths and their statements. I'm a person that's going to uncommission your ability to speak on my behalf in a non-integral, non-honest way. So my speak is very combative when I get to this point. This is the whole chapter. When I learned that standing up for myself, we had a meeting. I'll go in another direction, another example, quick one. We had a meeting the other day about engagement. I could sit here for another hour and tell you all the mechanisms in place, all the people that are on my payroll that are here to make sure that the person that buys the 2020 gym membership gets started right away. We get the hook in, they can meet with their physical trainer. I'm using metaphors, but they get a certain amount of activities done in a certain amount of time so that we know we kind of got them going. Because we know that if there's a gap right there, there's a failure to start. We've already recognized that in our analyzation. We have people that start really well and then fade out. So we've done all this stuff. And we have all these mechanisms in place. And every single week I'm receiving reports and I'm in meetings where we see the disengaged list. That's the people that aren't using the gym membership. We know these are people that are threatening to quit. We know that can hurt our company financially if that's happening. We want to have high retention. The meeting we had was about ideas we could do for better engagement. Quite frankly, I sat and I listened to 20 really, really smart executives and coaches and managers I have on my payroll for 45 minutes in a 1-hour meeting. And not one idea they came up with was something we hadn't already tried multiple times to a losing level. So I then said, I don't know what you're doing for the next hour, but we're going to spend another hour in here. And this is where the conversation is going to go. I think it's great. I think your ideas are great, but we've tried all of that. We've done all of that. It's not working. So I want to go in a different direction. I want to ask you, what if, just because of the environment that we're in right now, we can't get people to engage the way we want because they're going through their own life problems and they're having a difficulty doing stuff? Where does our integrity line stand to keep taking money from people not using our product? Are we at the point where we say, I'm going to set you free, even though the goal line of this is retention? That's something I want to put on the table. Nobody in that room would have even said that integral statement. Let's stop taking money from people not using our product, because it's anti-productive, it's anti-profit at a time where profit really matters. And it doesn't sound like solving the problem that was placed on the table. And the thing about, I think, great integral leadership is we have to turn the problem upside down sometimes. And we have to really say, are we willing to there's a bit of foolishness that goes on. And I'll finish the statement. There's a bit of foolishness and embarrassment I feel trying to get somebody to come meet me halfway. Because in my real life, if I wanted a dude to date me, I wouldn't chase that man. I would make myself the most attractive woman he's ever seen. If I, in my own subtle way, I don't know how I would do it. I'm saying that's how I would do it. I have done this for business for 37 years. I've attracted the business to me. I'm not going to go chasing business. I'm going to show you what I do. And if my light makes you want to come get what I've got, great. And I've done it to a winning level. I haven't had poor results doing this. And so my attitude right now is that we not go soft with these people not using our product, but we rather go back to them and we say, you know, you're not doing this right or well. I feel bad taking your money and I'm happy to let you go. But I think my job that you hired me to do is to get you to take action when you wouldn't take action. And so instead of going soft, I'm going to go really hard right now and call you out and tell you, you are not getting your shit done. And if you want to fight with me on this and tell me what's going on, and a lot of people will, they'll come back and say, well, I had this going on and I'm worried about that. And you know what? They're all legitimate reasons that someone might not come to a class or a meeting or do whatever. And then my question becomes, what other excuses are you making in your life that I can't see that are detrimental to the outcome and the bottom line of your businesses and life? Because here's the thing, you hired me to help you see the deficits. I can't see them. And so all I want to do is dance and work with sports people that want to come and work with me. I'm a pro athlete coach. If I recognize my athlete is not a pro, what do we do then? And the conversation changed in my room. So I'm just going to say, this is what we're talking about in standing down. What are you afraid of doing or saying that may have losses? And on the other side of that truth, actually end up being a gain that strengthens the relationship 10 times stronger, but you are not able to break through the fear of saying the hard, difficult, or needed thing to say because you are worried it will break the relationship. I've had people quit me mad, and I've walked away, and I felt sad and grief and hurt over it, knowing that I said the right thing and not feeling like I said the wrong thing. And when that's a power, by the way, because if you can take loss while walking an integral line, you have really good self-love. And that's truthfully what this book's about.
Mic drop. If you can take a
Maybe.
loss while walking an integral line, you truly have self-love. I just want that's a good thread post. So, I'm really on
Yeah.
that threads now.
Yeah, I love that. I see
I had to
that.
write that down because
I'm into your threads too, by
I'm
the
gonna
way. They're
oh,
good
are you?
ones. You make me think every time. Yeah, I love them. I
I'm
read
going
them,
all
I
in on
dissect
that.
them in my mind.
Someone said the other day they commented on one of them. They're like, Jay, I love, waking up in the morning. I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, and
Yeah,
looking at the
yeah.
thread and thinking, I'm going to catch up on what you had to say for the month. And then I read it and I'm like, oh, that was this morning. Because there's like 30 threads and, I just using it as a journal. Actually, this is so relevant to what you just said. I'm using threads to try to speak up for myself where I omit 99.99999% of everything I think. And there's that fine line of how to help, how to be a professional
Yeah.
and when to and what the lion in me wants to roar. And so the
Yeah.
threads is giving me an outlet
Yeah.
right now
That's great. Great
to
metaphor.
roar. And so thank you for reading some of them. Because I think I did say yesterday, yeah, I got 1,041 of you followers and I got 3 or 4 readers. Keep your circle small.
Well, that was a standing up moment right there.
Yeah,
I want
you've
to
helped
just
me with this.
thank
Our
you.
the people close to me have helped me with this to exemplify this. I tell the audience, Christine is not kidding around. I've observed another level of you standing up that is coming back around and helping the teacher become a better student as well, right? Because in one context, I've been a teacher, but this is our relation, great example of Nietzsche's, the student that doesn't outshine the master has let the both themselves and the master down. I want to say, like, you're helping me with this conversation, the last few especially, and damn, it's an important conversation because um, there's always something to say.
Yeah. And our industry right now needs the truth, and it needs strong leadership more than
It's so
ever.
fucking divisive. It
It
really needs
is.
leadership,
No,
and I
really
hope
good
that you're that
leadership.
leader.
Yeah, I'm putting myself out there to not, you know, 10 years ago I would have seen the financial strategic opportunity, because let me tell you something. When all the leaders are shitty, and they're not all shitty, but when there's a lot of shitty leaders, it's easy to stand out front and like the water buckets just get filled in your direction. And I'm not going to say that hurts my feelings if people come to 2020 vision for a sense of leadership they're not finding in their own companies, or they're not finding at home isolated in their entrepreneurial businesses. We've made I'm not going to do a plug, but we've made it really like ridiculously stupid that you don't come cost wise. I want to say this chapter happens to be one of my favorite, because there's several pictures of you and me in this particular chapter. We didn't put a lot of pictures. This is not a picture book. This is a word book. But we did put some pictures peppered throughout in the book, in the beginning, in the middle, the end. This book has some pictures of Jay and I. It has a picture of Jay coming to see me speak, surprising me at like a real estate office, and getting my books that I had then, my first two books, Wise Eyes and Clear Boundaries. We took a photo together. There's another picture where he visits my home for the first time. There's another picture showing how we continued the relationship through COVID by using
Yeah,
video and staying connected. And it's just a moment that historically stamps in time the work I'm describing that's being done throughout the book and our connectivity. And it's great for me. I am rereading Finding Honor. You wouldn't think, like, what else do I need to do? I'm writing a book. Who has time? I am just in this place in my life. Somebody I love is reading this book right now, and they just started. And I was like, I want to read it right ahead of them, so that I have myself like really ready for the conversation, because they want to talk to me as they're reading it. And I'm reunited with how special this book is right now. This book that is in competition, this book that right now is being read professionally by award publication companies across the country. I'm super, super proud, because this was the hardest book for me to read. And this is the best last part of this chapter I can give you, is standing up in my life could not have been more exemplified by just writing this book, because there are things I talk about that companies would want me to have buried regarding my professional life. There are things that I talk about that past, lovers and ex-husbands would not want me to talk about. Um, and a lot of other things that were outed in this book that probably both from my family and my current personal life, people probably were a little cringy about me coming out with. And it's not a TMI book. I don't think it is for some people. Jay and I were talking before we started this, and I'm just going to say this. If you aren't honest, this book will be hard to read, because it's going to make you face your own honesty. It has a test about self-honesty in the beginning, and it's going to really level you up about where are you going? What is your currency towards happiness? How are we really wired to be the best version of ourselves? How do you walk towards salvation in this life? I'm doing this, by the way, writing this book the entire time my sister is dying. My sister dies 3 days after the end of this book. We rewrite the ending chapter, which is coming. So if I can tease you out to a future episode of this podcast, it's going to end with an epic ending, I promise you, of emotional heights that are unparalleled in my lifetime. And anyways, that's it. Stand up for yourself, and know that there's goodness coming to you for doing it.
if you want to stand up, you're listening to this episode, follow Christine, look into 2020 Vision for Success Coaching. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. We will see you next time. Culture Matters.